The digital clock on the wall read 9:12 a.m. I had barely taken the first sip of my coffee when he summoned me. His father's corner suite, with its dark mahogany and sense of inherited grandeur, now belonged to him. Arthur sat in the large leather chair, leaning back as if he were a newly crowned monarch. "Happy birthday," he said, a smug grin spreading across his face. "Here's your surprise. You're terminated." I didn't ask why. I didn't plead. I simply reached across the desk and took the folder he had placed upside down, hoping I wouldn't look inside. Then I walked out. Not a single tear falling, not a single word spoken. I had dedicated 8 years to this enterprise. I had built it from a tiny, overlooked division into the powerhouse department where everyone wanted to be. I stayed late, fixed the mistakes of others, and even shielded Arthur from his father's wrath after he was caught, intoxicated at a client dinner. Back then, I foolishly believed that loyalty was a tangible asset, an investment that would pay dividends. It was, in reality, nothing more than free currency for people like him to squander. When his father retired and handed him the reins, I told myself I could adapt, but I saw the way he looked at Manat as a valuable asset, but as an old problem he needed to resolve. It seemed my birthday was the perfect day for him to erase me. I discovered the true nature of his betrayal before I even reached my vehicle. The folder I had taken wasn't my termination paperwork. It was a contract. It detailed the reassignment of my role, my salary, and all my top patrons to someone else, an individual who had been with the enterprise for less than a year. Someone he had been intimately involved with. My termination wasn't an act of incompetence on my part. It was a matter of convenience for him. And in that moment, my anger didn't ignite. It froze, hardening into something far sharper than rage. A clear, concise strategy. I didn't drive home. I drove to the harbor. My husband John was there in his suite above the marina, his hands gliding over the blueprints for a new expansion. He looked up the moment I entered. "I got fired," I stated plainly. He leaned back, his gaze studying me with a slow, knowing smile. "What do you need?" That's the remarkable thing about being married to a man like John. He doesn't deal in emotions. He deals in outcomes. I handed him the folder, showing him the contract. He made a single phone call. By the time I left his suite, the first domino had already been tipped. We started with the patrons. I had been the one to secure the company's largest accounts. They trusted me, not the logo on the wall. Within 48 hours, I had met with each key contact for coffee, telling them truthfully that I was exploring new opportunities. John's firm already had the infrastructure in place. All they had to do was sign. Next came the supplier network. Arthur's enterprise relied on a fragile chain of contracts, many of which were about to expire. John's team quietly, we acquired the renewal rights before Arthur even realized they were open for negotiation. Then came the quiet killing blow. We secured the commercial lease for their flagship location. The building's owner, an old friend of John's, had been waiting for a reason to replace Arthur's enterprise with a more reliable tenant. We gave him the perfect one. For days after my surprise termination, my phone began ringing with his name. I let the calls go unanswered. By the time the missed calls reached 98, I knew it was time. I walked into the building without an appointment. The lobby was in a state of pandemonium. Phones were ringing off the hook, staff were whispering in panicked tones, and a handful of clients were storming out. I found Arthur in his suite, pale and drenched in sweat. "You can't do this," he said the moment I closed the door behind me. "Can't?" I tilted my head. "You took my job, my team, my work. On my birthday I took your company." On a Tuesday, I slid a new folder across his desk. Inside were the final contracts, his patrons now ours, his suppliers under new terms, and his lease ending in just 60 days. He flipped through the documents, each page draining more color from his face. "How?" he managed to stammer. "You gave me the motive," I said, cutting him off. I already had the means. I left him sitting there, staring at the paperwork, as if it were a death sentence. By the end of the month, his enterprise would be a thing of the past. The building would soon bear my husband's name, and the people who had built its success, my people, would be working for us with better pay and better terms. That night, John poured me a glass of wine on the balcony. Below us, the harbor lights reflected off the water, steady and bright. "Happy birthday," he said. This time, I genuinely smiled. The best gifts aren't wrapped in boxes. They are meticulously dismantled piece by piece, until there's nothing left for the person who thought they could take everything from you.